Good morning. So I decided to give you a video to look at so you can understand a little bit about the technology which we're working with. This is a technology developed in Russia. It's known as stranic technology. It has two parts, stranic virtual scanning and stranic light therapy. So what does this technology do? It's able to diagnose your health in a level of detail and sophistication which is completely unprecedented in modern medicine. And what we demonstrated was that this is in a computer game format. So your game is to remember colors in a video, and then when a filter is imposed over the screen, to recover the original color balance. Now you're probably thinking here, how can that be a medical test? Well, it can be a medical test for several reasons. The first one is that you're all complementary health practitioners, so you know that color has an influence on the body's function. If you wear red, red is a much stronger color. It's an aggressive color. It stimulates the sympathetic nervous system. A pastel color like green, light shade of green, you'll find on the wards in a hospital, in the cardiac wards, because it's known that green calms down the autonomic nervous system. It works on the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, if color has an effect, because we are a biological entity as human beings, it means that color must have the way in which we see color must have biological origins. And that happens because when proteins and other biologically significant molecules in the body react, as in a pathology, it gives out a little pulse of light, a biophoton of light, and that pulse of light influences how we see color. It explains, for example, why somebody with diabetes has altered blue and yellow color perception. And this is not unique to diabetes. It's common across all drugs, all vaccines, all medical conditions. All of them are characterized by changes not just of color perception, but of sensory perception. Well, I'm Graham Ewing. I'm Chief Executive of Mimex Montague Healthcare, and I've been responsible for publishing over 50 articles published in medical journals. So I did to warn some of you that this is the boring stuff. The video comes first, the boring stuff comes afterwards. So this tells you who and what I've been doing. I've been going to medical conferences for many years now. I've traveled in the last few years to Ottawa, Colorado Springs, San Francisco, Berlin, Madrid. At Madrid, I gave a presentation to the World Congress of Prevention of Diabetes, also in Dresden. So these are some of the places that I've been. But I really haven't been focusing on complementary health exhibitions, which is why I'm here today. So, changes of color perception are associated with the function of the nervous system. We covered this before. Why is this important? Because it's not just about color perception, it's about the wider issue of sensory perception. What are our senses? Our senses are vision, hearing, smell, how we taste things, even our vocal spectrum. There's a lady in Spain, she has a similar technology but not nearly as sophisticated, but where she's measuring changes of vocal spectrum and relating that to a person's health, but in a very much more basic format. So we know that sensory input generally influences the brain. The brain influences the autonomic nervous system, and that influences your molecular biology. But if it involves your molecular biology, it must involve your cellular biology. And if it involves your cellular biology, it must involve how the organs function. And if it affects how the organs function, it must affect how the organ networks work. Because we know that in the body, organs work in networks. Now these networks are known as physiological systems. Why is this so important? Because a doctor's training is based upon understanding the nature of the physiological systems and how they're affected. Does anyone know what the physiological systems are? Anyone make a guess? Well, that was one. In the old definition, there was an immune system. I don't like the term immune system, but let me tell you, I'll put you out your agonies. Blood glucose, blood pressure. blood cell content, blood volume, digestion, elimination, sleeping. Sleep is a physiological system. Acidity, posture, your physical structure, your bones. Okay, osmotic pressure. There's 13. I probably won't remember them all. Breathing. You've got here, the people will be working with the Alexander technique, which is about enhancing your breathing. This is so important because actually when you look at complementary medicine, most of the techniques which are used are actually trying to work out how to adapt either sensory input or the systems in the body. So what I'm saying to you is that it's about understanding how the brain regulates the body's function, because it does so. I mean, how else could a marathon runner run and then at the end of 26 miles sprint 400 meters? That's not possible unless his brain actually is able to override everything else in his body. So your brain is the most important thing. That is what the brain is doing. The brain is regulating the autonomic nervous system. This is the definition which I came up with in Wikipedia. The system of nerves and ganglia that innervates the blood vessels, the heart, smooth muscles, viscera and glands that control their involuntary functions, consisting of sympathetic and parasympathetic portions. So if we want to use either contemporary biomedicine, as practiced by the doctor in hospitals, or if we want to use complementary and alternative medicine, we have to understand how the autonomic nervous system functions. When your body is a digital entity, I told you before about biophotons of light being emitted in the body. That means every little biophoton that's emitted means your body functions digitally. It either emits a biophoton of light or it doesn't. The only issue here is how many biophotons of light does it produce in every second? Now, did you know that your eyes respond to as little as 70 biophotons a second? So we know already that the eyes do respond to color and light. So if we have a mathematical model of the autonomic nervous system, we need to put data into that model. So what we demonstrated to you before, I know it was a lot of information in the video, but what we demonstrated that we were putting into the model your weight, your age, your gender, and your sensory input. So weight. Katie Hopkins is right. As you get heavier, you are making yourself predisposed to disease. Because we know what that does to your body's function. As you get heavier, if you develop an abdominal pout or gout, your back starts to bend out. If you get too heavy and you're in your older age, you find people's physical structure changes. Have you seen a person sitting there with the legs wide apart and the stomach hanging down? Their physical structure changes. This is so important with your structure, because structure is so important, first of all, for your pride of appearance. If you can't actually hold yourself erect, how can you won't even be able to wear properly the clothes, no matter how expensive they are, the clothes won't look so good. Then if you're heavier, you'll find that has an effect upon your skin. The weight of all the fat in your skin starts to pull you out of shape. Okay? And once you get too big, your skin loses its elasticity. And even if you lose weight, it won't go back to normal. Are you seeing? You're starting to understand weight is so important. I could go on and bore you to death here. I don't want to go on too long. But yes, whether we like Katie Hopkins or not, she is right. And the second thing is age. Age is included in this mathematical model. So you are pre-programmed from birth to live a life. And that life used to be considered to be about 70 years. Now it's more like 77 or 78. I think that's is it 82 for a woman? 78 for a man? Anyway, but we have reached a stage in our lives where we know that increased weight, to go back to weight again, increased weight actually does the reverse effect. It's actually starting to shorten our lives. So whether you like it or not, as your health declines, you get older. Your body just starts to produce less of the proteins that you need, and after a while, you run out of those proteins. And if you did live a long life into your 90s, do you know what you die of? You die of diabetes, because you simply don't produce enough insulin to metabolize the glucose anymore. So, a little bit of an emotive statement. Keep healthy, if not for you, for your children. Now, I've told you about how the technique can be used to diagnose a person's health. I think I did cover it in the video. I'll cover it again. So we can diagnose a person's health in a level of detail and sophistication that's unprecedented in modern medicine. We can look at every organ, so there's about 30. We can look at every pathology in those organs, and we can do so at a level of cost which is about 5 to 10 times less. 5 to 10 times less than is currently the case, because it's all done in a computer program. But we can also turn this round 180 degrees, and we can use light as a therapy. But that's not a surprise if you're complementary therapists, because you know that colour is used therapeutically. You already get colour therapy. So we know that we can get a therapeutic benefit by using colour. The question arises, how much benefit can we get? So what I've done here, I've put up one example, but I have got 5 minutes to spare. I can talk about other examples of how this particular version of stranic light therapy, of colour therapy, is based upon an unprecedented understanding of the phenomena of how the autonomic nervous system works. And if that's the case, we can use it to treat medical conditions much, much better than contemporary medicine. That might surprise you, but do you know that drugs are only 50% effective? With the exception of antibiotics, drugs are only 50% effective, because you're either treating your gene type or your phenotype. You can't be treating both together. So drugs always will never ever be much more than 50% effective. I sell drugs for a living. I have 2 jobs. I'm completely committed to the benefits which drugs bring to our lives, especially antibiotics. But you have to understand the limitations of them. Okay? Drugs are not the panacea for everything. They're useful. They're like a sticking plaster on a wound. They help you to get on with your life. But if you really want to live a much healthier life, you have to understand how your body functions and feed the model. Make sure it's fed with the right things in terms of sensory input. Now this is a lady which we treated. Sharon when she came to see us, she was 59 years of age. I don't know if anybody's ploughed through this so far. It's a very long testimonial that she sent us. Let me tell you very briefly what this was all about. She'd suffered from migraines from the age of 11. She was now 59. She'd had the worst migraine in her life. She needed to sort this out. When she went to a hospital, which I believe was the Derby Royal Hospital, they gave her various drugs, never worked, and then they sent her home in a hospital to sit in a dark room. Okay? I'm sure you've all heard these types of stories. To cut a long story short, she came to see us because we'd been in touch with her son's girlfriend, and she knew what we were doing. We treated her with stranic light therapy, and from the day that she's been treated, she's never had another migraine. And every Christmas we receive a Christmas card from Sharon thanking her. Here's what she says. The people closest to me, my family, have seen the most dramatic change in my health. They have commented on the fact that I'm a more relaxed and calmer person. I'm less likely to let situations upset me. Okay? These are the conditions that we have treated over the last 13 years with stranic light therapy. Now let me make a caveat here. This technology has not been submitted for clinical trials in a Western environment. I'm merely reporting that these are examples of people that we have treated in the last 12 or 13 years. The technology has been used in Russia since about 1999, where over 600 medical doctors have been trained to use it. We have treated dyslexia. I have testimonials from mothers and that's not it's not a surprise for people. If you know your subject, you know there are already flashing light therapies used to treat dyslexia. We just believe that we've got a better technique. Attention deficit disorder, well, very often that goes with dyslexia. Restless leg syndrome, same. Migraine, I told you about. Headache. Diabetic circulatory problems. Gentleman came to see us. He was 81 years of age. He'd been to see his doctor because he had a swollen foot. He couldn't even move around. He couldn't even clean his flat. We treated him with this. We bumped him into him 4 months later in the Victoria Shopping Centre in Nottingham. We saw him again, we shook hands with him. He was doing his shopping. He thanked us for the success of the therapy. Now, if you understand the systems in the body and you're treating these systems, these things are possible. Sleep disorders such as sleep apnea. We treated a gentleman with sleep apnea. We have a statement from his consultant in the Queen's Medical Centre in Nottingham that he no longer has sleep apnea. Okay? Let me be honest. He no longer at that time had sleep apnea. He's had some recurrence of it, but at least he knows how to control it. But at that time, when he was doing the therapy as instructed, he was completely free of sleep apnea. Depression. The technique works very well for depression. Dysarthria. Now this is a wonderful, wonderful story. This gentleman is 59 years of age, like Sharon. He'd woken up one morning about 4 or 5 years previously, and he literally couldn't make his brain speak to his vocal cords. He could just make guttural noises, going, go, go, go. That's what his wife could understand him, but that was no use. So this will be my last case, the last one to talk about. He was the very first person we treated, because when we started out in 2003, we were wondering where we were heading. Anyway, this gentleman came to see us, recounted a story of not being able to speak, and I told them we couldn't help them. I spent 15 minutes saying I didn't want to take their money. The wife said, we have tried everything that medicine can do. They've washed their hands of us. They've sent us a letter saying they can't treat it. We've tried everything that complementary medicine can offer. Nothing works. You are literally our last hope. We gave him the therapy, so it came in a disc. At that time it was a floppy disk. He took it home in his computer. He did the therapy. 6 days later, now I'll repeat this for everybody. 6 days later, he phoned up to speak to us. I answered the phone. He spoke to me as clear as I'm speaking to you today. This is Roy, can I speak to Eleanor? Okay, we completely resolved the problem. We've treated lymphoma, which is a cancerous condition. I have a testimonial to support that. We've treated hay fever, asthma, chronic breathing disorders, panic attacks, and these are some of the things. But if you understand how the autonomic nervous system works, then you can actually understand that these things are possible. So, my final issue, health and beauty are linked together. If you can keep yourself healthier, that must relate to your personality, how you project it, your vitality, everything about your body. Your health and your beauty, they are intricately linked and together. And I'm going to stop at that point. Thank you very much for listening to me. I hope you found it of interest. Thank you. I'm on the stand over X1. Anybody wanting to know more information, we're on the website. We have flyers that people can take away. We're doing consultations. We're looking for practitioners to work with this technology. Okay, this is available to everyone. You don't need to be a doctor to use it. You might need to be a doctor to understand the depth of the data, but there's nothing to stop us working with this technology or placing it on the market. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.